Watching that video, I was like, there's no way I'm playing this game.
Day one at the Masters, Justin Rose, your leader at 7 under. Scotty Scheffler and Roy McIlroy, the two favorites, are 3 shots back with 4 under 68. Bryson DeChambeau at 2 under. And Fred Couples shot a 1 under 71 with an eagle on 14. Second oldest player to break par at the Masters. All right, what's going on, Rip City Drive? Chad doing just after 3 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon here in the Portland, Vancouver metropolitan area. 2 more Trailblazer games to go. And I did something today I have not done in a while. I was booking tee times for the next week, which is a beautiful thing. So I'm very much looking forward to golf season. I think we're going to get some nice weather next week. And I'm looking forward to my first day off coming up on Saturday after 41 consecutive days of work. So that's where I'm at, man. I am focused on the finish line because I can smell it. And it's been a lot of work. And the Trailblazer season, I think, by and large, was a very good success. But the end is near. And 2 more games. Warriors tomorrow night at Moda Center, tip at 7. The season finale against the Los Angeles Lakers is coming up Sunday at 12:30. And tickets for both games available at trailblazers.com. Sunday, also Fan Appreciation Day. They're going to give away the final collectible glass of the 4 glasses. This one is a Rip City Runs Deep glass, which I have in my possession, and it is fabulous. The first 7,777 fans will get a glass, and we can hang out and watch the Blazers in their season finale. Shaden Sharp, a career-high 37 points against the Utah Jazz. Blazers fall in overtime, 133 to 126. And the loss, I mean, it was just nice to see the guys who got a chance to play continue to compete and play hard down the stretch, which is nice. It's also nice that this year they allowed the guys to continue to compete and play and try to win games right up until the very end. And so we're only going to get a couple of games where the lineups are a bit weird. I don't expect to see Scoot again or Ant or Denny Avdia. So last night, the starting lineup featured guys like Delano Banton, Tomani Kamara, who's, trying to be first-team all-defense, maybe defensive player of the year. He was in the lineup. Donovan Clingan got a chance to play, and Shaden Sharp, of course. And Matisse Thybulle, who has been really solid since finally making his return from the ankle injury. So that's where we're at with the Trailblazers season. Coming up on the show today, very excited here in about 15 minutes. Alex Brink, former Coug, and now with E4 Sports, is going to be joined and is bringing in a former PGA pro who many of you know. Brian Henniger is going to be in studio. And we'll talk about the golf farm and the work that the golf farm is doing with E4 Sports and the golf instruction, which I'm a big fan of, and also his best finish in a tournament. I think it was back in 95, 10th place finish at the Masters for Henniger. So I can't wait to talk to him about the tournament. And today's first round did not disappoint. I would say that if you're ranking apps, like the all-time apps, the Masters app is a GOAT. It's the GOAT. It's a great app. I've been firing it up all day, checking in on my favorite golfers, seeing what the heck's going on, and following the scores. And the first round did not disappoint. The 2 favorites in this tournament, no surprise, Scotty Scheffler and Roy McIlroy. They're right in the mix after round 1. 4 under 68 for both of those guys. My guy, Bryson DeChambeau, is sitting at 2 under par, and the leader right now is Justin Rose at 7 under. He was at 8 under until a late bogey, and now he's no longer in position with the 8 under, but he's 3 shots ahead at 7 under. So that's where we're at. But the surprise today, one of my favorite golfers all time, Fred Couples. He shot a 1 under 71, and had an eagle on 14. He is now the second oldest player at age 65 to break par at the Masters. And, of course, Couples had that legendary run back in 1992 when he got his green jacket. That was awesome. That was awesome. So that's where we're at with the Masters. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see how things shake out tomorrow. And then we'll get into, movement Saturday and see how things shape up for the final round on Sunday, which is also going to be the same day as the Trailblazers season finale. Now, the other big story last night was Luka Doncic's return to Dallas. And what a wild scene it was, because you had Mavs fans who were furious at the franchise for trading Luka Doncic, and Luka Doncic, who was emotional making his return to Dallas, which is pretty crazy. And let's just put it this way, Luka did not disappoint.
Luka, another three. Yes! Got it!
Oh,
Smoking!
Luka, just stop. Oh, no, then again, don't stop.
Doncic, who now wears those colors, and the number 77 on his back. We'll get it right back. Luka, three, got it! The dime!
The crowd on their feet when he knocks down the triple. Oh, my goodness.
Up and in. What a circus shot.
Luka with the left hand horse shot.
All right, so you got to keep in mind that Luka, he made his return to Dallas and had a chance to face the Mavs. First trip back to Dallas since he was traded to L.A. And he was not expecting to be traded. He didn't demand the trade. He wasn't looking to go to L.A. and play for the Lakers. It came as a shock to him. And then, of course, in the aftermath, there's been a lot of things said that I don't know if you can get past by the franchise. Throwing Luka under the bus, trying to justify their decision to trade one of the three best players in the world. So the return for Luka last night was very emotional. He had a chance to run into a lot of people he knew during his time in Dallas. Obviously, he had been there for a number of years. And you could see the emotion in his face as he was wiping away tears when they introduced the players. And they did so with a video montage. And it was a pretty electric scene for Luka. And then he went out there, had 14 in the first, and he got comfortable real quick and ended up having a big night. And after the game, LeBron talked about Luka's night, his moment, his return.
Super dope. Super happy to be a part of that moment. Obviously, you saw the emotions on Luka's face. It was great. That was an unbelievable moment. Something I probably would never forget, to be a part of that moment. And the kid had 7 amazing seasons here. I mean, he was from a kid to a man, and for all those moments, just it's all come together today, and just it's pretty cool.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal for a guy like LeBron, who's been there and done that many a times over, to say that it's a night that he won't forget. I think that says something. And he's had returns before. He's gone back home. He's been in those emotional environments. But last night with Luka, that was pretty special. Now, Doncic, and I played this during the update, but he was having a difficult time with the video montage.
I don't know how I did it, because when I was watching that video, I was like, there's no way I'm playing this game.
Now, the cool part was throughout the game, usually when a player returns or goes back home, there's a lot of boos that come out. And the Lakers, while they have a lot of fans that will show up when they're on the road, they also have a lot of haters, and you'll have people who are booing them. But that was not the case last night, because you have this weird dynamic where Mavs fans love Luka. They don't want him to play for the Lakers. They didn't want him to be traded, and so they blame Nico Harrison and the front office, as they should. And so they were chanting, "Fire Nico," throughout the course of the night. But they were cheering every time Luka got the ball. Crazy. And Luka talked about the fans.
It was a little bit of both, happy and angry, but, it's nice to see some familiar faces here. I spent a lot of times with them. Like you said, it was a lot of emotions. When I woke up, I was tired. I ain't gonna lie, I didn't sleep much. I was excited about this game, and, I really appreciate the fans, the way they reacted to me.
Yeah, and he should. And I thought the fans handled it well. They had the Fire Nico shirts. They were chanting Fire Nico. And one last thing from Luka.
Everybody saw me the way I reacted to the video. All these fans, I really appreciate it, man. All the teammates I had, everybody had my back. I'm just happy, this guy, I love these fans. I love the city, but it's time to move on.
All right. So, of course, not a surprise. He had 45 points. He was terrific. 7 to 10 from downtown. He's comfortable in that arena. But his true vindication for Luka, his vindication, I think, is going to come not in one game, not in one return to Dallas, not dropping 45 points on the Mavs, but his vindication is going to come from what takes place over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. Is he able to compete at the highest level? Does he continue to excel and be one of the most dominant players in the world? And more importantly, is he able to lead the Lakers to success and win a championship with, along with Boston, the two best franchises in the NBA? If he does that and he's wildly successful the way he has been over the first half of his career, that's where his vindication is going to come from. And that will seal the fate of Nico Harrison and Patrick DeMont and the rest of the morons who thought this was a good idea. But for Luka, he just has to continue to work and do what he does. And maybe being in L.A., maybe being around LeBron, maybe he will take his conditioning a little more seriously so he can continue to play at a high level, but more importantly, to be able to last for an extended period of time so his body doesn't break down. That is going to be important. I'm not worried about Luka's body. I'm just saying that will he take his conditioning a little more serious? I don't know. I'm not sure. I do know being around LeBron and in that town in L.A. and, maybe the change of scenery, maybe that can help. Now, the weird part is Anthony Davis, another player that I really like. I like Davis. I think he's terrific. I haven't seen too many bigs at his size who can do what he does with the basketball. I actually feel kind of bad for him because he's a very good player, and he has been for an extended period of time. Unfortunately for him, he plays for the Mavericks. Mav fans don't hate Anthony Davis. They hate that the franchise traded Luka Doncic, and Anthony Davis is the player who got caught up in this trade on the other end. So it's got to be very weird for him when he hears the constant vitriol from the fan base about the trade. And he's always going to remind Mavs fans of the fact that Luka was traded by Nico Harrison, no matter what he does. So I like Davis. I think he's a terrific player. I don't think he gets enough credit for the way he plays and what he can do on a basketball floor. I just hope that he's able to get comfortable and have, some level of success in very difficult circumstances. I mean, those players didn't ask for that. Luka definitely didn't want to be dealt. He had just had his new home, built. He was expecting to be in Dallas for an extended period of time, and now he's with the Lakers and playing with LeBron. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But last night was emotional. But the fire Nico chance, if you're Nico Harrison, that's not going to go away anytime soon. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. When we come back, my man Alex Brink, former Coug, he's now with E4 Sports. One of his partners, former PGA player Brian Henniger, both of them are going to be in studio. And we'll talk about the golf farm and the way they're helping golfers of all levels excel at the game. And we'll also get his experience as a PGA player and also his top 10 finish at the Masters back in '95. I appreciate your time. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. All right, what a thrill this is. Alex Brink, former Coug, E4 Sports is in studio, and he brought a friend from the Golf Farm, which is also a part of E4 Sports, Brian Henniger, former PGA pro. Brian, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thanks
so
for
great to
having
see
me.
you guys.
Excited.
Alex, what's up, brother?
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. I appreciate it.
All right, here's the cool conversation we just had. I just showed you the video of Fred Couples today, second oldest player in Masters history to shoot in the red, had an eagle on 14 from 191 yards out with his hybrid. And I asked you, I said, as a pro, is his swing as smooth as it appears to be?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, we're all so jealous of Boom Boom. Period. I remember way back my rookie season, my first good tournament was the Western Open in Chicago. And I got paired with Fred on Sunday. And believe me, he was Mr. Popular. And there was only a few of them. I mean, the rest of us were just journeymen, just hanging on.
Yeah.
And Fred, we had it deep. We probably had 10 deep from the tee box to the green. I was so nervous. And Fred comes up and kind of bumps me and goes, hey, kid, it'll be fine. And I shot 68 that
That's
day.
great, man.
And he was applauding me all the way around. So I think highly of Fred, but he did make it look effortless.
How great is it to have guys like that you respect encourage you when you're young and knowing exactly what you need in the moment?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. They're not all like that, by the way. Fred was an exception. Especially the guys that were known as the better performers. Some of them had such big egos that they wouldn't do that for the younger generation, but not Fred. Fred didn't. He had this humbleness about him with superior talent. I mean, he literally didn't. Even when I played the Champions Tour for 5 years, Fred was the guy that didn't practice. The rest of us were still trying in our 50s or 60s. Like I saw Bernhard, I think he was 1 under par for a while on the front nine.
Yes.
He's 67 years old. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, it truly is. At that age.
That's why we love golf, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we can play this game for a long, long time and play it at a high level.
And I can still go out and play with my dad, which is nice.
Yeah, it's incredible.
All right, Alex, did you have pros, whether it be in college or in the NFL, guys who were really good but encouraged you, like what he experienced with Couples?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very similar story where it's probably a little less frequent than you would like as young players. You know, you have veterans that sometimes are very protective of whatever their process is or protective of, their status. And so they maybe don't help the young guys. But then when you come across, right, a veteran or somebody that's really talented that wants to, like, bring you under their wing, I mean, like, that's so special and it sticks with you. You know what I mean? Because the other version of it, like, we all know that, athlete where it's like, man, like, you don't really need to be like that. You're already really good, or you're already really established. Like, we don't need to, you don't need to treat somebody like that.
So how did the Golf Farm, well, first off, how did you guys meet? And then how did the Golf Farm become an idea to where you wanted to have it be a part of eForce and what you guys are trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, like, the connections were endless, which was funny. Brian is Sheldon High alum. I'm a Sheldon High alum also. And so, from Eugene, and we got introduced, and honestly, it was very organic in how all this happened, because I went in and was, talking to Brian and his business partner, Amy Simonton, about what they were doing and the fantastic instruction and setup they have at the Golf Farm in Tualatin. And Brian starts telling me about, his passion for the golf swing and how there's more to it than just, the mechanics and the technique and, everything to do with body position and strength and movement and all these things. And, I just start, it's like, that's what eForce is about. That's what HQPT is about, right? And that's where the game is. That's where the game lives. And it's so fun to talk to Brian and Amy about that, because, that's where they see so much of the development in both the athletes they work with and the general population. Because then, of course, as Brian does, he said, Alex, you got your clubs in the car? I was like, well, matter of fact, I do, and I bring my clubs in. And so for me, separate from all that was, I spent 30 minutes with Brian and Amy, and, it changed my golf swing. And, 2 years later, I'm a single digit handicap when I was a 12.
That's terrific. So you're working with people of all different ages, sizes, abilities, people who are just beginners you're working with and helping them to understand how to swing the club and play the game.
Absolutely. It's a cross-section of people that come through the Golf Farm. And I love it all, actually. I love the older generation. I love the kids. I love some of the really skilled people. But I don't have an affinity for one style of golfer.
Yeah.
I'm just hopeful that I can impact people in a positive way.
Yeah.
Because really golf is as you know, you play the game and you work at the game. it's a hard, difficult game to what would you assemble some characteristics that you feel like you can go play well with.
Yeah.
And basically we're teaching fundamentals all the time and how to get the club on the ball. And Alex was nice talking about, but this is a superior athlete.
Well, that's
right
what I'm
now.
saying. These guys
like,
irritate
it
the
didn't
crap
take
out of me.
much.
Stop it. Tell me more. Tell me more.
The eye-hand coordination of someone like Alex, you realize when you see them, it's like, okay, they're at a different level than I am.
Absolutely. It's so much simpler with somebody that has that kind of athleticism, hand-eye coordination like you talked about.
Yeah. So what I love that you're doing, and I think I'm a perfect example, is that I started taking the game seriously about 5 years, a little over 5 years ago. Started working with a coach, working indoors, working with the technology. And the best part is when I started, I was shooting in the 90s and 100s, but we slowly started to work on the swing and the basics. And then over time, we set goals every year. And then I remember the first time I broke 80 and got into the 70s. I remember the first time I shot even par, and then last year getting under par for the first time. If I can do that, then anyone could do it, because I was starting at the very beginning stage. But the thrilling part for me at my age now, at 49, is to have a new challenge, a good hobby, something to challenge my mind and my body and that whole process of self-control and everything. Like, I've enjoyed the entire process, and I know my coach enjoys seeing me grow, but it's been very good for me, a positive.
Yeah, it's so fun to hear somebody like you, and that you weren't intimidated or scared to at least go down that pathway to see if you could kind of get a little bit better. I think Alex and I have talked about it. We talked about it today in a meeting about the intimidation factor with instruction. A lot of people are just timid. They don't want to get in front of somebody. They might be on a driving range where people can kind of observe them and see them fail.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things, and you know this, being indoors, I don't really care what they do. I'm trying to change technique, and sometimes Ben Hogan said it best. He says, if you're making change and you actually whiff the ball, you're probably getting closer where you want to be.
Yeah, that's a good
kind of
point.
crazy,
That's
actually,
fantastic.
because it's hard to get people stimulated. Like, I don't really care if you miss it, whiff it, chunk it, top it, whatever. I just want to see you kind of make some change physically.
What's also unique, I think, about, when you do instruction indoors with the technology nowadays, be it TrackMan, like, we have at the golf farm and some of these things, is when you go to the driving range, you don't always get the feedback maybe that you need to make change. Because, right, I can put a ball in a fairway, but it may not be exactly what I need, right? And so being able to have the data and be able to look at the things and not get so in the weeds with it, right? Because, like, the average golfer doesn't need to get super in the weeds, but just have the idea of, like, oh, if I make this small change, it changes the distance or it changes the way the ball spins, and that's enough, right? And being indoors at a place like the golf farm with great instruction is you get, the data you need. You get people around you that are going to support you, good, bad, or indifferent, and that's what ultimately leads to change. I mean, Chad, you're a great example of having a coach that, is helping you through the process.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately where we, we're so passionate, Brian and Amy and Carson and everybody at the golf farm, so passionate about taking people along that journey, right?
Yeah, and it's got to be nice, because what are most people's goals? They just want to be able to go out and play with their partner or a friend or maybe a men's group. Like, I know people with different abilities have different goals, but what are people generally trying to accomplish with golf instruction that you meet?
Probably just to hit a ball solid.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when we're playing golf and we hit a couple shots during that 18-hole round. They're like, oh, God, those felt good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the magic of golf, is like that's going to bring them back. I think ultimately it's low-hanging fruit, really. It's little kind of incremental steps that give them hope that they can do it more often than not.
Yeah.
It really is. It's very simple. And then you get, I coach some elite people that have much higher expectations, where he was talking about the data, and you've learned it through your coach too, is that, like, you're trying to get at a higher level, you're trying to get that face and path to match up more often than not.
Yes.
You understand ball flight rules, how the path creates the axis spin, how the face gets the start line for the most part.
Yeah.
So the better players seem to be really more consistent on the curve of the ball and how to produce either one, a fade or a draw. And I think that's where Alex just pointed out, not to get too in the weeds with some of this data, but it is helpful because we can switch some of that. Most of the people, the community golfers, are slicers. Shaft gets steep, they come over the top, they wonder why they slice the ball.
Over here.
Yeah, like most of us, right? We're really trying to, in the golf farm, we're trying to resurrect that with the amateur player.
Yeah.
Can we get the club to kind of manage itself a little bit differently so they can hit the center of the ball and it's not orbiting in a weird place where they have to like pull their arms back, get their arms kind of noodly, the big chicken wing kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's really like the community golfers that exist out there, and that's what we're trying to resurrect. But not for them to be afraid to come get support, whoever they go to.
Yeah.
Golf Farm, hopefully they want to come there and support us and get some good information and go through our process.
You know what's cool is that for someone that played the game at a high level like you did for an extended period of time, I love that you're giving back to the game, because what I'm hoping with people like you and the Golf Farm will do is create a situation where younger people will want to play, get involved, so that we can continue to grow the game, so we have access to the great local public courses that we do.
Most definitely. But you know why I built the Golf Farm, Chad?
Why is that?
Because I've always been frustrated hitting the golf ball.
Yeah.
I built my little laboratory for me to get better at golf.
Well, you made a great point. And I love this because it made me feel better instantly as soon as you walked in the studio. You said that, like, my biggest fear when I play golf, and I worry about it all the time, is, am I going to lose my swing today and lose my feel? And then how long is it going to take until I get it back? The biggest thing I've learned over the last 5 years is that it will come back, but I hate those moments where I'm searching. But you said that you went through the same thing.
Oh, every week. I mean, like, because I was just a field player, right? I was self-taught. I mean, even leading the Masters in '95, I was pretty self-taught. But I wanted a coach. I wanted a mentor. I wanted somebody to support me. But I was guessing all the time. I could run with it for a while and play great golf, and then I get scared to death because I lost the feel or some kind of grip change or fundamental stance, how I stood there. And then I'd get worried. And I would not sleep at night, and I would work harder and practice more and wear my body out. And yeah, it's still embedded in my neuromuscular. I still worry and consider it of, am I going to miss it today? Am I going to hit it good? but I think that's consistent throughout. We saw some people struggle today, so they had good preparation. They probably felt really good going into today. They missed their first tee shot or second hole or something, and that flipped it. And then they're concerned and worried.
Yeah, it's tough. That's probably a hard part of the game. Did you experience that too, where you'd hit a couple of bad shots and then you start to lose your train of thought or where you wanted to be?
Oh yeah, and then you can't have the grinder mentality anymore. You're so worried about your golf swing and being able to hit it consistently. You're approaching the next shot with this whole ambivalence about what just happened on the tee shot, and you're concerned instead of just scoring mode and being athletic.
So what is happening that's different in those rounds where, and you know what I'm talking about, where I'll have these rounds where I'm not thinking about anything. Mm-hmm. I'm stepping up to the ball with confidence, and I'm hitting it the way I want to hit it, and I'm not thinking about anything. What's going on there compared to a day where I don't feel that?
I don't know. We're pretty complicated as humans because this is resonating so much with me, because at your level or my level, it's relative, but it's all the same. We all have the same concerns. It's a precarious thing. I remember working. That's why we work with sports coaches, sports psychologists, whether it's Bob Rotella or Dick Coop or whoever it is. I worked with a variety. I loved all of them. And you kind of build these skill sets to kind of almost fake your mind out a little bit. Like, I didn't really hit a bad shot. I really didn't make a double. I mean, because you can have the perspective that you started off bogey, bogey, bogey or something. And you could say, well, I tripled the first hole and I just parred the next two, because you'd feel better after the next two. So
I'm totally using that when I go bogey, bogey, for sure.
Yeah.
Or holes. I teach this to the kids. Like, if you're on a hole, you're playing in a golf tournament, and you're worried about it, probably the practice round, really difficult tee shot or something like that. Replace it with a hole that there's no way you could miss the fairway, because you can do that visually. You could take, I don't know. Let's take a hole in Oregon. Let's take. You play the public golf course. Let's take Heron Lakes #1. Yeah. You're probably going to hit the fairway there, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no damaging, water or trees or whatever. You could just take that and put it on #1 at Augusta or something. I'm going to play the first hole at Heron Lakes.
Yeah.
No, it's super valuable. But I think most of the guys on tour, they have a better skill set up there to manage the noise.
Yeah.
Big time. One more story real quick. I was working with Dick Coop one time, who'd worked with everybody. Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, you name it. Ernie Els, all the great players have been through him. Payne Stewart being his kind of #1 prodigy, Corey Pavin. I flew out to North Carolina from a tournament or something where he liked to work on the golf course. So he liked to have you visualize obstruction out there. So on the first hole up the hill, he goes, how high are you going to build the wall, and where are you going to build it? And I said, down the right side. It looks like it's the whole fairway's contoured that way. He said, okay, what color are you going to paint it? I don't. Maybe I painted it blue, but it was tall, and I'm a very good visualizer. So, anyways, I hit a perfect tee shot. We did the same thing on the second shot. I hit about a foot. I did this for 5 straight holes without like it was almost unconscious. I was just developing. I had no swing thoughts, no feel, no nothing. Every shot was perfect. And he looked at me on the 5th hole and he goes, "Why aren't you winning more? I've never seen anything like this. This is as good as I've ever seen." I'm like, Dr. Coop, that's why I'm here. But over time, I was trying to develop that. But then as I got into more like the technique stuff, the technique is where it gets a little bit baffling because you think in your preparation when there's nothing on the line, you can kind of be that technically minded person. But when you're playing golf, it's much better to kind of visualize. And through repetition, hopefully it just gets in your system and your body and your mind know how to do it. But that they get intertwined sometimes and they interfere. So you get too conscientious. And that's why back to the Fred Couples thing, he was never that way. He was like, see the target, hit the target. And he faded the ball for the most part. So he knew exactly which way his ball was going to fall.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Did you have holes or do you have holes that you play that there's like a mental block where you just can't visualize a certain hole?
A bunch. A ton.
And I've got holes like that too where I get up there and I know what I need to do, but it's hard for me to visualize because it could be the contour. Maybe it doesn't match up with, my normal swing, things like that where I'm almost defeated before I even get into the tee box.
Most definitely. I'm right there with you, Chad. However, like if you see guys nowadays, like they talk about like you need to move the ball both directions at Augusta, possibly. You don't have to be a drawer though because Nicklaus wasn't either. They'll just play these draw holes and hit fades off the left side of them, and they work fine.
Wow.
So the game's changed some that way.
Now, where all do you have Golf Farm? Where can people access it?
Yeah, Tualatin. That's the original Golf Farm, going on 6 years now. And then brand new location out in Bend in Central Oregon. Just opened out there at the end of December. Super excited about that. Yeah. Brian's got roots out there, out in Sisters.
That's probably a great location to have a golf farm, right?
Oh, it's just, I mean, to be honest with you, the people out there obviously are really avid golfers. There's a short season of golf, so there's that element. But I think a lot of it has to do with, similar to actually the Portland metro area, right? Like people love playing the game. And we've talked about this a lot with, the Golf Farm and golf in general, the growth of the game since COVID, right? And you talked about the access for young people, the access to the game really grew and the attention on the game really grew. And then, as people have gotten into it, trying to find ways to get them on the course or get them involved, indoor golf and simular golf has really helped, I think, in my opinion, with that. And, places like, Portland and Oregon with what I consider both great public and private golf. People want to be outside and they want to play, but then when they get outside to play, they're like, "Wait a minute, this isn't matching my expectations."
Yeah,
and so then they need the support system of a place like Golf Farm and Brian and Amy and all the people involved, and be able to have something to go back to and say, "I want to play great golf. I want to shoot in the 70s like Chad and go under par." After a handful of years, but it takes time and effort, and to do that. But it also doesn't take that much time and effort to get in, and this is my personal experience, is get some tips that kind of help and feel excited to be out on the course. Because a lot of people, I think, find frustration, right? Like average golfers like me find frustration on the golf course at times. And, you want it to be a great experience and fun to be out in the sun and, drink a few beverages and hang out, right? And that's what I think, again, having a little bit of tools and support can do.
That's great. All right, Alex Brink, Brian Henniger in studio. We'll come back and more on the Golf Farm, and we'll get some stories from Mr. Henniger on his Masters experience as well. Day one is in the books, and right now, Justin Rose, your leader at 7 under par. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing.
powerful.
All right, this is pretty
Usable.
awesome. Alex Brink and Brian Henniger are in studio. Alex, can you talk about the plates? You were just talking about the plates that you use at Golf Farm that are interesting to me for the base.
Yeah, we just got these fantastic force plates, and so what they're showing is both kind of your vertical force, so up and down, where's your weight distribution, right, among other things, and then also rotational power and rotational force. And so, Brian and I have talked about this, and when you watch, it's a lot like, right, I train some of the top quarterbacks in the country, and everybody throws the football a little bit differently. Everybody swings the golf club a little bit differently. There's some core fundamentals that we all need to have, but ultimately you can get in trouble as a coach and an instructor trying to change something in somebody that maybe doesn't need to be changed because they're getting positive results and you can change it somewhere else, right? So it's the old in quarterback, like the Tim Tebow, trying to change Tim Tebow's throwing motion was baked in. Like he'd pick that football up when he was 3 years old and that was it, right? But things like force plates, they start giving you data on weight distribution and maybe where your feet are, maybe you're not rotating enough, things like that. And you can see it very objectively versus the kind of guesswork of saying like, well, I think he's a little bit too much in his back foot, or I think they're right. And so, those force plates that those are brand new within the last month, right?
Yeah, it's really fun.
You guys are just having a
We
field
are.
day
We're
with
geeking
them.
out on them.
Yeah. And so but again, that's where the game has gone, but it's also really valuable because as a golfer, let's say, I could go to a swing coach and he could just give me flat out bad info because he or she doesn't have, right, like the proper data and that sort of thing. So I think, with Golf Farm, we pride ourselves on fantastic people that are teaching, but also, the right tools to help, every golfer get to where they want to go, whether they want to be like me and, just be a above average golfer, or you're trying to learn the game, or you're trying to be great. And they work with some of the best, high school and college athletes in the state.
Hey, Brian, how hard is that to take? Because each person's different. So how do you learn how to communicate with each individual you're working with to a point that they'll understand the information that you want them to have?
I think, for example, let's say, Chad, you came in and you came through the door. We greeted each other. The first thing I'd ask you is, what's your history with golf? When did you pick it up? What do you know? What do you not know? Have you ever taken a golf lesson? What do you expect to get out of the Golf Farm experience right now? And then I'm going to tell you that today's probably not the day you're going to get better at golf. If it's your first golf lesson, that's fair, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Over time, I don't know. Sometimes it's instant success for some people, and then it might be 6 weeks. It could be 6 months. It could be who knows how long. It doesn't really matter. But I think training is better than like a golf lesson. I think if I can get people to kind of like build continuity with me or the Golf Farm, Amy, Carson, whoever's teaching, it is a better resource. So once I kind of get our relationship going, today I'm gonna educate you, and I'm gonna make it so organized and so easy for you. And by the way, that hour golf lesson or something, it's gonna be one key point. I guarantee you, it's not gonna be 5. It's not gonna be 12. And we'll move on if you can kind of progress through what I think are important things, which it could be pivot motion, it could be the club, it could be the hands, it could be the arms, it could be anything, but it is going to be really, really simple. That's taken time, though. I like it when Alex was just talking about some of this data that we're getting, which is I keep trying to get better at my craft. I want to learn more. I have lots of coaches that I call, and I'm like, hey, I saw you on Instagram, or I saw you on social media. What did you mean by this? Why are you teaching this? What did you learn? Was it from a biomechanics expert, or what is it? I'm still learning and trying to get better. And I think the process is really, really important to me. And I'll never be great at this. I don't know if anybody is really.
Yeah.
But it is fun. And the challenge of somebody, depending on, how good they are at golf or how much I might manipulate them or not. I've had people come in there with such good technique that I can't help you here. Can we go to the putting green? Can I teach you some short game things? Because I'm probably not going to make that beautiful golf swing much better.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to tell them that it's got to going to a fitting, right? And you show up, and the guy actually tells you, like, you need to go work on your golf swing. I'm not going to sell you golf clubs. I think that's a better version of Brian Henninger, really.
Yeah. How has golf instruction changed over the last 20, 30, 40 years?
Enormous. We are so much closer. I mean, like, as I give credit to somebody, I worked with, because I know your coach a little bit, and I know how they teach. Mac O'Grady really brought he kind of pioneered a way to measure the club shaft. Because the P1, P2, that's kind of, so the vocabulary in golf instruction has changed a lot. There's not as much ambiguity just because of 3D motion capture. People can prove this is what the tour player's doing. The great player, if you want to be great, this is how the club is shallowing to some degree to line up to hit the ball good. Not as much guesswork. I think it's improved a ton. I think there's a enormous amount of good coaching going on right now. But at the same time, you have to be careful with people that are pretty talented with golf.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned with these good players that we're watching on TV today, not to mess them up.
Yeah. I mean, think when you were playing, you didn't have access to the type of instruction that you could get at the golf farm today. Not even close.
Oh, not even close. I mean, God, it was just fraught with just guesswork. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that we're guessing to some degree too. What could make somebody better? You know what I mean? A lot of times it's basic fundamentals. People have really poor grips. They stand at the ball really bad.
Yeah.
That's why this bigger team with Alex and his crew, these guys are experts. It's awesome. It's awesome to have John Leidholt that works with us and works for HQPT to step in there and go, I need this guys with his S-curve in his spine to change that. So can you step in here and help me with that? Or if it's the force plate, because I can't, again, he mentioned the force plate stuff. You can tell a little bit about what the feet are doing, but it's unmeasurable in 2D. But in 3D, you can know exactly where they are at the top of their swing.
So people who have never gone through golf instruction, so when they come in and start working with a golf farm, I would imagine you would give them different items to continue to work on when they go to the range or when they're going out to play around a golf. I mean, I'm just trying to help people kind of piece together in their mind how that process plays out.
It's always organization. So, I mean, first of all, I thought I could be kind of a method teacher until I realized that people think about it so differently and they're challenged by their athleticism or their mobility, their strength or something that I have to be qualified. That's years of doing this. I've been doing it for maybe 15 years now. I just keep getting better at it. I mean, I used to try to get everybody into kind of the same form, but I've realized that people can't do that. So if they came in, it's going to be low-hanging fruit. It's going to be something really simple, and I'm going to share some information with them. I'm going to write things down. I'm going to go, this is what you're going to work on. This is how you're going to work on it. It's very simple. It's whether people put in the effort to do it. Because a lot of times, and you can ask a lot of them, people come in for the rabbit foot, and there is none. It is you guys going out and having such a love affair for this game that you'll stand there and hit balls and work on your technique. You'll walk around your house with a golf club in your hand. You go stand in the mirror and check your alignments. That's how we all got good at golf.
Can I keep you guys till about 4:12? Do you have time?
Yeah, we love this.
All right,
we got to hear some. We got to hear some master
Yeah, we got to
stories
talk
from
some
the man.
masters.
Sorry.
I think my favorite hole, the one I would like to play, is 13. I love that hole.
Yeah.
So I want to get your take on the course.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, we'll do more. Brian Henniger, Alex Brink in studio. I'm like a kid in a candy store right now. This is awesome. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, Trailblazers fall in overtime last night, 133-126 to the Jazz. Final road game of the year for Portland. Shaden Sharp, career high, 37 points in the loss. The Blazers back in action tomorrow night. The Warriors are in town. Tip from Moda at 7. Our coverage will start at 5 with Blazers Game Day live from Moda Center. Tickets for both games available at trailblazers.com. Luka Doncic made his return to Dallas last night. Lakers over the Mavericks. Luka with 45. The team introduced him with a video montage. Here's Luka after the game.
I don't know how I did it because when I was watching that video, I was like, there's no way I'm playing this game.
Day one at the Masters, Justin Rose, your leader at 7 under. Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, 3 shots back at 4 under. Bryson DeChambeau at 2 under. And Fred Couples, a 1 under 71. Had an eagle on 14. Second oldest player to break par at the Masters. Alex Brink and Brian Hindiger in the studio. More Rip City Drive coming at you right now. All right, Alex Brink and Brian Hindiger in studio talking Golf Farm. All right, I've seen a lot of players this week talk about how much Augusta means to them and being on that course and being able to compete in the Masters. You finished 10th in 95. So I'll ask you first off about the course. Just being there, the tradition. As a player, do you feel that and sense that when you walk the grounds?
Oh, it's unbelievable. It exceeds every expectation. Magnolia Lane wasn't long enough. Oh, it is better than good. Yeah, it's incredible.
What was it like playing the course the first time?
I was pretty determined. I remember I played the first practice round with Peter Jacobson, who was he was like a big brother to me out there, and Larry Mize.
He still goes out there, Jacobson, for the putt tip and the whole deal.
Yeah, I listened to him. I know. He was great to me. Much like Fred Couples, those guys you'd sit down in the lunchroom.
Yeah.
And they'd kind of give you advice on, if you're going to be out here for a long time, these are the things that you should probably pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a pro-am, like get to know the guys, be nice to them. You might create some business opportunity, blah, blah, blah. That's how those guys were to me. But the golf course, oh my gosh. But I was like that first day, they were just helping me like, hey, if you're here, you expect this, you know what I mean? Make sure you're putting from this angle to this angle because this is where the pin locations are going to be. The only thing that was kind of surprising to me, and you've probably heard this before, Chad and Alex, is that it's more undulation than you think in terms of the whole venue. The complex is pretty slopey, like you're going up and down, and you've got lies that are not flat, so you get accustomed to that. But it's right in front of you. There's no tricks out there. It is what it is, and you better putt and you better hit your golf ball pretty well.
Wow, how slippery are the greens?
Well, they're about as quick as they can make greens. You just don't want to be in positions where you're putting downhill too much. I saw Rory a minute ago where he was about ready to go, like explode past the field, and he missed a little 5-footer downhill slider, and they're really tough. So it's just really if you're pretty exact and you're pretty in shape with your iron game, you should be able to leave yourself in places, and you can fit it in. If you're hitting the ball good, you can kind of see how the ball kind of collects into these areas where the pins are. So. It's not one of those where you're like, wow, this hole doesn't look like I thought it was going to look. Yeah, it's tricky. You get down there in the amen corner and you get on number 12, that little par 3.
Yeah.
And people go, why is that hole so hard? It's only 155 yards. I'm like, the wind's blowing around and it's got that ridge behind it and it kind of swirls and it's kind of a scary shot. And that's kind of 10, 11, 12 are the holes that you want to fight through. And then there's some scoring opportunity going home.
That par 3 has taken a lot of guys down.
Oh, it's brutal. Except for the year for Boom Boom, and it stayed up on top. It was going to go in the water, and he won the tournament. It's incredible.
What's your favorite hole to play there?
Oh, it's the amen corner thing. It's 13, 14, 15, 16. It's right in there that, like, because you know that, like, if you can capitalize, that's the scoring thing. It's some of the front 9 is really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get off to a kind of a solid start and maybe even par 1 under on the front, the scoring's on the back. Even though 10, 11 have changed, that course is bigger. These guys are stronger. I love golf today. I love how fit these guys are. They look like Alex Brink, and they're look like they could go play football. And they're so well put together, and they do their gym training, and they're strong, and they can withstand all the force they're putting on the ball. Like when I hear like he's got an 8 iron, he's got 185, I'm like, what? We all hit the ball the same pace. Like 8-irons would go 145 to 150 in my day, all of us. You'd go out there, even Fred Couples was one of the longer guys, and John Daly and a couple of them, but most of the time you're within 10 yards of each other. I wouldn't be within 70 yards of Rory McIlroy now. I mean, it's just it's a different game. It's awesome.
Maybe it was the PGA, but I remember Bryson had a shot from like 220, used an 8-iron.
Yeah, it's baffling.
My dad was like, did I just hear an 8-iron?
I know. It's incredible.
What do you think about the way he's redesigned his body?
I think it's incredible. I love Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, he's been, besides the live thing, I'm a big fan of the PGA Tour, and I wish it wasn't so. There's so much opposition and fractured and stuff like that. So hopefully they can come up with some. And I miss some of the guys. Like, I think Bryson is doing great growing the game. We talked about growing the game. I think he's growing it exponentially different than most players. He's putting himself out there. He's YouTube hero right now.
Yeah.
But, watching, I miss Brooks Koepka. John Rahm is almost not even relevant anymore. Dustin Johnson was at the top of his game. I mean, these are world-class players that could have had some huge legacy kind of goals, and they chose, the money.
I was saying this just crossed my mind. No, sorry, because I was, Brian starts talking about the course, right? And then I start thinking about 95, and I haven't had a chance to ask you this. I don't think specifically, but you go, you get off to a hot start on Thursday, right?
Yeah.
And then I think Friday, you carried it on. But then you go, when you're going into Saturday, because I know Sunday's got to be just is what it is. But when you're going into Saturday, what are you thinking? How'd it go? What was that like?
I think really there was. I didn't really have a lot of expectation there. I mean, this is big time golf. This is a big time major. I'm not one of those guys that fits in that category.
How old were you at that time?
32, I think. I got on tour pretty late. I was 28 years old, I think. I played 5 years of mini tour golf. I was a warrior. I'd do it tomorrow though, Chad. I mean, I loved it.
You don't regret any of it, do you?
No, it kicked me in the throat so many times, and I got back up and wanted to do it more. I mean, yeah, it was incredible. Saturday was a great pairing again. I talked about Fred Couples kind of supporting me around the course at the Western Open that year when I shot 68 and finished third or something. That was huge for me. I got paired with Davis Love. Same guy. Same congratulatory kind of guy. That's applauding me. Hey, kid, keep it up. Just kind of bumping me. And that was a special day. Friday was interesting because I was paired with Nick Faldo. And he's not my favorite by any means. He's 6'5", and he thinks he's better than you. And he's got this arrogance just standing on the tee. And I'm just like, I'm going to pounce on you. So I just went mano a mano with him. And I kind of focused on that. And then Saturday was just good. Saturday when I walked off the 18th green, and it's late in the day, perfect weather. I've got my wife. I'll get emotional thinking about this. I've got my daughter, and I've got the two families that supported me the most in terms of finances to get me rolling out there. One was from Yuma, Arizona, and one was from Texarkana. And those you get 4 tickets, and you can't go into the ticket office and go, God, I've got a couple other friends. Can I get a couple? Nope, you get 4. And you get, except for your parents, and they're there with you. To share that experience with them was the ultimate for me. And then, of course, I get people like Chad coming up. Can I interview you? And I feel pretty popular, and I'm on ESPN, I'm on ABC, I'm NBC. I'm, big press room stuff, and that felt really good. I mean, I could have. It didn't happen, but I could have taken responsibility for being that guy. I love being the guy. Yeah. I thrived on it. I wish I could have got there more. Yeah.
What a great experience. And like you said, to be able to share it with the people that meant the most to you to get to where you're at, right? To be able to be there with them, that doesn't get any better than that.
No, my college coach, who was my greatest mentor, he's passed now, but he was there with me, and without him, I couldn't have got there either.
Alex, how cool was that, after a game that you played in college, to have your dad or to have a conversation with your mom, because they're there supporting you? That had to be, you probably enjoy those moments a lot.
No doubt. And there's these, it's different in kind of every sport and every setup, but, for us at Washington State, we would I'd leave the kind of the press room, our version of the press room, and go down, and all the families are kind of waiting in the football facility. You get to go down and, big crowd of people, and then, you get to hug mom, or, it was cool. My brother was like, would travel all the games. He was in college, that type of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think I can't imagine it being on the 18th green of the Masters. I mean, at Augusta, that's a whole different level, but it's so cool.
How hard is it? Like, how big is that fairway trap on 18?
I hit it in on Sunday. Actually, I'm coming up the fairway with Ben Crenshaw, and I'm like, gosh, what would it be like to have a 2-shot lead in the middle of the fairway? I think I could get this accomplished. I'm in the bunker. The bunker's better than right. So the trees you can't really play. You got to chip out. The bunker you can, if you can pick it out of there. I picked that one and I hit it on the green, but it's pretty deep. You can't see out of it, so you got to pick some like leaf or something on top of the bunker to point at. But it's not as damaging as long as the ball doesn't plug or something.
Yeah, so the bunker's okay, better than being right and having to chip out.
For sure, but that tee box is so much further back than where we were. I mean, it is like a tunnel coming out of that thing. Yeah, and I see those guys struggle with that tee shot now.
Feels like you're in a subway tunnel, like when they show the shot from behind, right?
Yeah. Oh,
it's
gosh,
like
it's impossible.
Fairway's way out there.
Yeah, it is.
That's great. And what about 16? Is that fun to play?
So fun. You just like for example. So I have my great friend and attorney. We wrote a book called "The Mouse That Roared on Sunday," and the picture on the front is me fist pumping on 16. So that's when I'm 9 under coming into 16.
Yeah.
But it's the right front pin kind of up on that little knob. And this is one with Peter and Larry that we'd worked on because the ball's going to come back down to the front. And you're going to have to putt up there, but you got to get it up there or it'll come right back at your feet. So anyways, shot, you're not going to go at that pin. I mean, you're kind of stupid because if you miss it right, now you've got water in play. You've got a lot of things in play. So I hit that. It came back to the front and I'm just like, you just got to get this ball up on top, and you've got to have yourself a 4 or 5 footer. You got to have a chance to make par, Brian. Anyways, I make this putt. It's breaking about 12 feet up that hill that goes in, and I just gave it the biggest fist pump ever, and that was the ultimate. So 16, for the most part, is a really cool hole, but there's such a huge fan because they sit across the water too, because I could kind of see them in the photos afterwards where I went like this and everybody's coming up out of their chair like, who is this kid? How is he leading this tournament? And then I kind of found myself making pars on 17 and 18 to finish at 10 under for the 3 rounds.
Gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun to thanks for having me today too. It's fun to reminisce and talk about.
Well, the cool thing is, like, I didn't know you back then, but me and my dad were pulling for you because you were local.
Yeah, Oregon guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just thought that was pretty sweet that someone from Oregon was, in a position to win the Masters.
Yeah.
That was mind-blowing. It was great.
Yeah, still mind-blowing. It feels like it's a dream or something, but it actually happened.
That's great. All right, before you go, so where can people get information on the golf farm to seek out instruction?
Yeah, I mean, I think you check out the HenningerGolfFarm.com, check out the Instagram, Henninger Golf Farm, and just reach out. I think Brian made a couple of really good points about, when people are seeking out golf instruction and they want to get better, it can be intimidating, right? And the biggest thing at the golf farm is that we want people to feel that they can come into this community, open door, to have access to former PGA Tour pro and Brian Henninger, who got to fist pump on 16 at the Masters, and Amy Simonton, who's one of the best, female golfers to ever come out of the state of Oregon. Carson Berry, a former Oregon State golfer. All the great people in HQPT like John Lighthold and eForce helping with strength. I mean, it truly is a community, and if you want to get better and learn and be a part of that, go visit the website, call, email. Brian and Amy want to get on the phone with you and talk about how they can help you get better.
That's great. I really appreciate you guys coming in today. That was awesome. Brian, nice to spend some time with you.
Chad, I appreciate it. Yeah, very fun.
You're welcome anytime. And, of course, you're welcome anytime too, Alex.
Appreciate
All right,
you,
we'll
buddy.
keep things rolling here. Rip City Drive. Big thanks to Alex Brink and Brian Henninger. You got the Rip City Drive.
How long are you on?
All right, big thanks to Alex Brink and Brian Henniger for joining the program. Really enjoyed that. Brian Henniger, quite the guy, and helping spread the love of the game of golf, which is nice. And what a fortunate man I am, because I say goodbye to Alex and Brian, and I welcome in my good friend Celeste Trapp, who's back from Harem for What Women Want. Celeste, great to see you again this week.
Hi, Chad.
How's life?
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you. You had the same experience I did, where you were making some plans for next week, and you saw the forecast.
Oh, my
You're
gosh,
like,
it's looking good.
it's looking really good.
I mean, we like to believe these weathermen actually know what they're talking about, but in this case, I'm going to go ahead and believe it.
I know, me too. So what are some things, like I enjoy golfing a lot, but like what are some of the outdoor activities you enjoy?
Well, I also enjoy golfing, but I started playing pickleball this last year.
Oh.
So I play in a club now inside, but I'm excited to play outside. When I was in San Diego over spring break, I found some open plays, so that was really fun. I kind of look forward to doing that around town here. But, the usual Oregonian stuff, hiking. I like al fresco dining, especially having drinks out on patios or entertaining at my house outside. I just love to be outside.
Yeah,
Anytime it's
I love
partially
being
nice.
outdoors. Pickleball is a blast. What a fun game that is.
It's so great.
I enjoyed the big issue they had over in Lake Oswego, too, with the outdoor
this-
courts making
oh.
too much noise. Noise pollution.
Yeah, it is noisy. I felt for those people. I wouldn't want to listen to that either outside my house.
So where do you normally play? Where do you play indoors?
I play at Lifetime.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they just have 3 courts. But it's fun and it's popular. So I literally have a timer on my clock on my phone 1 week in advance, and 1 week and like 1 day and 5 hours or whatever the formula is, and that timer goes off and you have to book your slot.
Yeah, or you're
on
not
the
going
wait
to get in.
list. Yeah, it's
Now,
that serious. So
I don't have experience with the outdoor courts. Where are the best places in the area to be outdoors to play pickleball? Do they have outdoor courts
almost
spread
every
out?
most of the tennis courts now have put lines down so you can play, and you can actually purchase a portable net that you could bring with you if you are near a tennis court that doesn't already have pickleball nets. But a lot of the tennis courts have been repurposed now for pickleball because, frankly, more people are playing pickleball than tennis. So, it's great. I haven't played that much outside in this area because I've been playing at Lifetime, but I got a new app, Pickleheads, and it's awesome. And you can see all the nearby courts and if they're free, if they're a membership or a pay to use. But a lot of them, I'm sure you've seen the big like People's Court. I think that's one's on 82nd, and there's quite a few popping up everywhere that I think they're like bowling alleys and various big warehouse buildings that are being repurposed just for massive amount of pickleball courts. So
That's great.
it's taking over. I think it's going to be around for a while too. So
Well, last week we talked a lot about hair, and it was funny because I ended up talking to my mom, and she's going through a process where she's looking at, different options, to help replace some of the hair because her hair's thinning out with time, and she's getting older now at age. She just turned 77. So we went through the hair. We have talked about, dating profiles and how to present yourself, and now we're going to get into something that I think you're big on based on my conversations with you, and that's really this process that I think we've all been through and can relate to on some level, where you go through your courting phase where, in my experience, most people are putting on their best, how they present themselves, how they look, the things they're willing to do or go out of their way to do to impress the person that they're courting. And then once you form the relationship and maybe get married, people on both sides tend to, at times, not everyone, but a lot of times you lose the focus on the things that helped you enter into that relationship to begin with. I don't know if you have what do you call that? What is that called?
complacency.
Complacency. That's probably a good word for it.
Yeah, it does happen. And, like you said, life gets busy and people, they have their careers they're building. They have their children, their family, coaching sports. And that's things that they were doing originally, when they were looking to seal the deal with this person and whether get the first date, get the last date and get married or whatever, they had to put some effort into that, most likely.
Yeah.
And whether it was their image, it was like being in great shape, looking great, or putting effort just into dating, to making plans, to getting flowers. And this is both directions, obviously, both parties.
It's not just a man thing or a woman thing. This happens in relationships from both sides. And I guess what we're trying to discover today is to, or at least what I'm most curious about, Celeste, is trying to figure out what it is, that mechanism that causes us to go in that direction, and how you can rediscover that same energy to be able to continue to invest in the relationship that you have today, which is important, right?
Right. And I think time just goes by and people don't even realize what's happening. And I think if somebody just takes a minute to stop and think, what was I doing originally when I was, dating this person? What was I doing to make myself look good, to feel good, to make her or him feel good? And start thinking about those things and think, well, when was the last time I did that? That alone, just having that intentional thought might spark some ideas and some change in behavior that could be really rewarding for not only yourself, but the relationship in general.
And you have a good way of, you have a great comparison here where you talk about people in their work life, right? In
Yeah.
your pursuit in the corporate world, where you're constantly trying to put yourself in a position to excel, to advance, to have the opportunity you're looking for. Most people, when they get into that position or that opportunity, they continue to, press forward because they know that the competition's coming at them.
Right. And we understand that, especially in corporate America, that everything you've done to get to that, big title, fat paycheck, that you have to continue doing or you're going to be out the door.
Yeah.
And they're going to replace you with somebody probably paying them less money. They're going to do a better job. And we just understand that we have to keep showing up.
Yes.
But in relationships, people start putting their feet up and they start becoming complacent. And then they look back and they're like, wait, what just happened here? Why is my relationship not what it once was?
Yeah.
And I think some accountability needs to be taken for that on both sides, likely. But being able to have that intention and really reflection of how people are showing up and deciding, is this is this how I want to show up? If this relationship and this family is important to me, how do I want to elevate it and show up in a way that's going to make it a better relationship for myself and my partner?
Yeah. And in my own experience, I think the real challenge there for me was, and I'm sure some people can relate to this, is that, as you continue on in a relationship, life, work, kids, you get distracted by all of these other things that keep you busy or take up your time. And so I was always trying to figure out how do I manage that and yet still make sure that I make my relationship a priority and find the time, not
Right.
just like not just a few minutes, but make sure that I'm investing so that time remains critical and I'm investing into that, right? And
Right.
that balancing act was very difficult for me.
Right. And that's why, so what we were talking about earlier was the book I've been working on called Relationship Inc. And it's all about comparing the tools that businesses use to be successful and sustainable to relationships. And a lot of it's around communication and systemization of that communication. So if you think about how businesses would use job descriptions to be clear about what the expectations are, how businesses use reviews to make sure that somebody understands where they're at, how they're performing and what they need to be doing better, and coaching them on that. They're using huddles and quarterly, monthly meetings, retreats, all focused around basically setting expectations and looking forward, and how can we improve where we're at now, and how do we meet our goals. And that can happen in relationships too. And it sounds really terrible. I know when people think about, oh, you're trying to make a relationship into a business. It's not that. It's just recognizing that we don't have systemization of communication in relationships. Most people don't. So just simple things like having, a standing date, even that alone could be huge for somebody. Just putting it on the calendar and making sure that you've allotted that time on the calendar for that time to reconnect with your partner. Maybe it's just a 15-minute huddle, in the Sunday night to kind of reflect on what worked, what didn't during the week. What do we want to focus on this week? I mean, just things like that you put on the calendar. To me, like, I live by my calendar. If I don't, I have a bad memory. So if I don't put something on my calendar, like my pickleball scheduling,
Yeah.
then it won't happen, because another week's gone by and it's like, oh my gosh, another week's already flown by.
So what you're saying is, even if someone's not a systemizer by nature, you can still, by taking some basics and having a calendar or making a schedule. What I've found from a couple of good friends, that they still date their wives, right? And so the two of them will get together before each week begins, and they will decide what night, what day, and how they're going to do it. And then they have a standing date each and every week.
Yeah.
And no matter what takes place, unless it's absolute, chaos or tragedy, nothing interferes with that time.
Yeah, that's so great. And I love too when I hear that people alternate who's planning the date.
Yeah.
So it's not falling on to one person. My friends do it with their anniversary and birthday, actually. They plan a trip. The other person plans a trip. And it might just be like a 3-day long weekend, and sometimes it's a whole vacation. And it's often a complete surprise to the person. And it's so great. They've been doing it for like 15 years.
And so my guess is that if you keep that, if you have that systemization, if you come up with whatever your system is that works to keep those times that you want to spend with your mate as an ongoing thing, that once you get into the habit of that, then it just becomes, it remains a priority, like anything else that you would have during the course of your weekly habits or things that you have to get done.
Right. You're prioritizing it. And you're telling the other person, like, I'm going to carve out this time in my schedule to make sure that we're connecting and we're growing. And if there's things that we need to put on the table and talk about, we talked briefly about that a couple weeks back. It's real easy to avoid hard conversations, right? Because they're hard. And you don't want to like hurt somebody's feelings. You don't want to ruffle feathers. So we just kind of put those things under the rug. But also having systems around how you pull out that information from somebody and give them a safe space to share the things that are really driving them nuts.
Yeah.
And because if that just keeps compounding and they're not sharing, it's not going to end up good.
Yeah. And a lot of times my solution to those situations has been to avoid the conversation that I know needs to be had because I'm just looking to avoid conflict.
Exactly.
Or an uncomfortable situation.
And it's really easy to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
It's human nature, I think, to avoid conflict.
But I've noticed that when I do, often it leads to a compound situation like you're talking about.
And it feels so good to clear the air, like just to get it out there. And I think it's just a hard thing to sit down at the table and be like, hey, Chad, I want to tell you something. This is what I really feel about you.
Yeah.
That's really hard to get into that. So to have some type of system where you can like sit down together and be like, let's go through kind of a worksheet activity of how we can be more honest about these certain areas and rate each other in maybe different ways. And what's one thing I could do better this week? Or, just different ways that you can have a safe space to share that information is really powerful.
Now, you mentioned something earlier, Celeste, about, people will get into a position where they kick their feet up, on the couch, right? And they just relax once they've gotten, once they're secure in their relationship.
Right.
So that when you kick your feet up, that can mean a lot of different things, right? It could mean you're not actively dating your partner anymore, making an effort to spend the same type of time with them. I guess it could have to do with physical appearance. How, are you remaining active? Are you still doing things to take care of yourself the right way? Like, what does that look like? There are many other ways that can manifest.
Right. Not putting the effort, like you said, not, putting the time in to date the person anymore, to make them feel good about themselves. Whether it's like make a little Post-it note, you look beautiful today, or whatever was happening that made that person know, hey, this person really cares for me and loves me. Like some of those things stop happening slowly. People stop taking care of themselves as much. When they're single and they're dating, they're like, I want to make sure that this person finds me attractive. So I'm going to make sure I pull myself together. I'm going to be at a good weight. I'm going to work out. I'm going to dial in my clothes and have a great haircut. Sometimes that starts to fizzle out a little bit. Intimacy. Maybe it's, foot massages and neck rubs and loving touches and gazing in somebody's eyes. Maybe it's sex. There's a lot of things that start changing over time. And some of that, again, there's the excuses of time, energy. But if you put intention around something and you prioritize what's important, you make the time. And you figure out, again, you go back to the system. You figure out some system for you where you're going to carve out that time to make that happen. And you're going to benefit from it because, we're talking about like people, when they sell their house, what do? They go through and they start remodeling it, painting it. They do landscaping and they start making this house look really great, where sometimes like, why are we selling this house? This house is great. And the same thing happens when people are in a relationship. They get out of the relationship and what do they start doing? Taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
They start losing weight. They start buying new clothes. They get a new haircut. And like, what would happen if you were doing that during the relationship?
Yeah.
What do you think? I think that they would probably be having a better relationship because not only would the partner be like, "Hey, you're really attractive right now," but they would also be feeling good about themselves. And we show up differently when we feel good about ourselves.
Yeah. I think when you, at least I can only speak from my own experience, but, by taking care of myself physically, it settles my emotions. I have more energy to deal with the different conflicts that come up throughout the course of the day, and I have more energy to share with my friends and family members, and just naturally because you take care of yourself, I think it gives me, just a little more confidence. You just feel better about yourself. And typically when I feel better about myself in a particular situation, I'll tend to perform better at whatever the task is I've got to take care of. That's what I feel.
Right. I mean, I can't imagine a life of not being physically active. And for a lot of people, it's really hard to get in the habit of that. Again, systems help.
Yes.
Finding times where you're more likely to not decide not to do it, which is like we both agree, morning time. But often we'll find in relationships is that both people might be active when they come together, and they're younger probably, and they're have more free time perhaps. But through the relationship, one person may continue to put effort into being fit, right? And then sometimes the other person doesn't. And that's difficult as well because the person who values the fitness and staying in shape and trying to look their best is doing it because they value it and their partner isn't valuing it. And of course, we all like to be with partners who are attractive to us. So that's a tough thing. So trying to figure out a way to do things so that, I have a thing with a fear that I'm going to be sucked into somebody's couch. And that basically, if it's who doesn't like to cuddle, watch a movie, have some wine, all that's great, right? But it's going to be you can be swayed to be doing that rather than going to the gym, going on a walk, playing cards, like using your mind or your body more productively. So realizing that you might be impacting your partner's physical activity by sucking them into the couch.
Yeah.
Maybe you've worked out in the morning, but they were going to work out at night, but you're like, hey, babe, let's just like watch a movie and have some popcorn. Well, that's a really hard thing to turn down than going to the gym or going on a walk, right? So just recognizing how you can support your partner and being physically active if they're the one that's struggling.
Yeah.
And also, men generally have a higher metabolism too, especially as we get older. Women and going through, older women in their 50s going through menopause, their metabolism changes. So if you're pulling out, all the goodies at night for snacking, it's really hard to say no when somebody's sitting next to you eating something delicious.
There's no
you
question
have to have
about
some
it.
serious discipline. So just taking into account, like maybe I don't need to be encouraging bad behavior like that
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, of course, it's great to splurge and do it here and there, but having a regular nightly ritual is probably just going to end up putting on pounds for both of you.
Yeah, I think, and at least in my experience, like there's a certain amount of it takes energy to continue to pursue, the activities I want to do to remain healthy, right? And so it's easy to get for someone to encourage me to just chill and relax. I have no problem doing that, so I got to stay on top of that to remain active and stuff. Well, like I'm wondering, like as a female, like when you see your man putting an effort into taking care of himself, whatever that may be, whether it's hiking or going to the gym to exercise or going through efforts to keep themselves looking good. Like, do you enjoy seeing that? Like what type of?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't enjoy seeing their partner look great? I think sometimes I have heard of people who kind of like, well, I kind of like my partner to be a little bit soft so I don't feel pressured that I have to, be on top of my own health. Well, that's kind of a cop out. I mean, because we all feel better and we're going to live a longer, healthier life if we do make it a priority.
Yeah.
And I think we all want to think we're going to grow old, and grow old with the person we're with, hopefully.
Yeah. And you want your mate to have good health, of course. All right. Well, keep things rolling here. Celeste Trapp is in studio. What Women Want. And we're breaking it down. If you want to reach out, you can do so. You'll find me on social at Chad and Rip City. And what is the social handles for What Women Want?
Here's What Women Want we're on YouTube and now TikTok and Instagram. So little clips from this, little shorts will be put up on there.
That's terrific. Telephone number is 503-248-0620. Celeste Trapp in studio. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, Celeste Trapp in studio, and we're talking about what women want. All right, so here's my question. For people who are in their relationship right now, and maybe they don't have any of the systemization that you were talking about, ways to help, stay focused on the relationship so it can continue to grow and you can, spend valuable time with your partner and have the type of intimacy and relationship you were talking about. What are ways that you can take no systemization and implement that into, your daily life? How do you have that conversation with your mate? How can you start from scratch to get that in place so you can start to get things on track?
Well, in business, what we do is we have long-term goals generally. We have some vision, some strategy, mission statement of where we want to be going, right? So often in relationships, that conversation has never happened. Really, it should happen before you get married, honestly. Like, what do you see as your future? Where do you want to, how do you want to live your life? What are the things you want to accomplish in your life? How many kids do you want to have? All these questions are things that could be part of a system from a early on standpoint of developing a relationship. But once you're in a relationship, you continue things, the course starts changing, as you have another child, you take a relocation of a job, and all these things are happening, and you're kind of like readjusting your vision of what does the future hold and where do we want to be? And having those conversations with your partner, and not just like, what's our goal for next year, or when do we want to buy a house, or all these things like that, but thinking bigger than that. Like, what kind of life do we want to have together? Like, what are the things we want to be able to experience in life? And not just do, I think the common thing, what most people do is they think of like the 3 steps, like the 3 things, like call it like T-Rex arms. That is their vision of how far out they dream, right? It's like, oh, I know if I do this and this and this, I'll meet this goal. And that's where their dreams end. So thinking bigger than that as a couple, like what are the things that how we could really live our life with our family in a way that would be amazing, and just kind of come to that determination together, hopefully. If you hadn't done it when you were first meeting, hopefully when you're together for 10, 20, 30 years, you can agree what that looks like for the rest of your lives and have it as a starting point, right? So then when you actually start talking about, well, maybe we could put some systems together to start looking about how we show up in this relationship and how we really work towards having that dream life that we're talking about we want to have.
Yeah.
And so just start at the end in mind, basically.
Yeah, start with the end in mind. Do you think people who are actually living that out successfully, are they ones that had that conversation in the beginning?
Well, the people that I know who do things like this are people in my entrepreneur circles who are doing things like this in their business. But most people are not really taking those type of tools and taking them into their relationships, which is what spurred me wanting to write this book, which wasn't really about the book. It was to do more like workshops and like high-end couples retreats, really. But just recognizing that people were in these relationships and they're kind of stuck and they weren't happy and they didn't know really how to get out of it because they had financial commitments and the children, and they weren't really leading the life they wanted to lead. And it just sounded from a person that, like, knowing what my end game, how I want to live my life, I know that it's going to take a lot of work and systemization and communication to not just only find that person, but to find that person and actually accomplish those things.
Yeah, that's the challenge. So, because I'm trying to think back in my limited life experience, like, I don't think I've ever asked those questions. Like, for me, it's like, well, I love you. I just want to be with you.
Right. Have you asked them of yourself?
I don't think I have. I mean,
okay, that's your assignment, Chad, over this next week. Think about your
I'm being honest,
life dreams.
Like, I had, like when I was young with work, like radio was the only thing I really wanted to do. So I just pursued it, right? But I've never sat down and asked myself, like, and thought at the end, right? Like, what am I trying to accomplish here? Like, and now I'm like, why haven't I thought about that?
Yeah. One great exercise is write your eulogy. Think about what you want to have said about you and how you lived your life and the impact you made in this world at the end of your life, and start from that point, again, with the end in mind, and then work backwards and think, maybe it's places you want to travel, things you wanted to accomplish, hobbies you wanted to pick up, And
or the differences I want to make in the community around me or the world.
yeah, right. And, just and spend time. I don't know if you've ever done much visualization, but, manifesting, like being able to just kind of experience it as if it's already happened is a really powerful thing to do. But part of that, again, is people don't really allow themselves to dream. They think, they're very practical about what they can dream of. Like, oh, well, I would never be that person that could do that. They're holding themselves back,
But
right?
why do we do that, though? Well, why do we not allow ourselves to dream?
I think that it feels scary. It feels like there's a potential of failure if we dream too big and we don't reach it, right? So we just hold ourselves back like, oh, okay, this sounds like something I could do. If I do steps 1, 2, and 3, I would get to that point. So that would be, a type of relationship I could have. That would be a type of car I could drive or a vacation I could go to. And just kind of keeping it just in that little T-Rex arm, just in this little circle of safety of something that you can achieve. And, going big and pushing that way out, farther out than you ever thought, imagine.
Okay, I'm going to make a promise to you. I'm going to write, this is going to take some time because I'm going to have to really think about it, but I'm going to write my eulogy.
I love it.
And then I'll share it with you. And because I see what you're saying now. If I start at the end, then that better helps me understand of where I need to go and what I'm trying to accomplish. And then I'm guessing that if you take that approach in your relationship, then the two of you together can understand where the end point's at and what you're trying to do.
Right. And, chances are if both people sat down and they both did this exercise, they probably have different visions for each other and the rest of their lives. So it would be a good exercise to do that, read each other's, and then think, okay, how do we compromise? Or how do we give each other enough space to be able to have these dreams met and maybe separately? Because it's okay to go take, a world, trip around the world. And the other person's like, well, I can't do that. Or I hate to, whatever it is, not to hold back the other person that has that dream and being okay with the fact that you can each do things separately sometimes.
But what's your schedule like? Do you have to leave right now?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'm going to keep you for another segment. More with Celeste. Now she's giving my brains. She's taking me places I didn't expect, but this is good. Celeste Trapp's in the studio. We'll continue the conversation when we come back. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. All right, Rip City Drive. Celeste Trapp is hanging out with me as we continue our discussion. We're talking about relationships and systemization. I guess here's a question that I'm trying to figure out, Celeste, is that, let's say you've been in a marriage for 10 years or you're in a relationship for 10 years and you're trying to, and there's no systemization, like there's no organization. You're not actively dating your partner. You're not investing the time like you used to when you're recording. But how, let's say the relationship's a little bit lost. Like, how do you take that form and then get the systemization implemented in there? How does that work exactly to where you can turn things around, right?
Right. Well, first, I think both people have to agree that they want to move forward in the relationship, right? That
Yeah.
they're in, that they're going to be intentional about moving forward and having that conversation. And so we were just talking about like setting kind of the stage for what both people wanted in their life, right? So having that on the table and discussed and known, and some people don't even know themselves, right? So just kind of understanding that is a starting point, and then being able to say, well, how do we make sure that we both know what each other want and how we're showing up in the relationship and where we're dropping the ball? So, one way, because we do have to pull information out of people. We can't expect people to come to us and say, hey, this is bothering me. Let me tell you about it, because chances are they're not going to have that hard conversation. So you have to ask the questions, and you have to be prepared for answers you may not want to hear, and have it be a safe space for your partner to say something that might seem hurtful, but they're being truthful, and the truth hopefully will lead to some change that will make the relationship better and stronger. So I think that honesty and creating the space to have that honesty is really important. So when you ask, like, how is somebody in a 10, 15-year relationship and they're maybe starting to go their separate ways, how do they get back on track? And one thing is, not every relationship, I don't believe, is meant to be forever. Like, some people are forcing these relationships where the people have just grown apart.
Well, it's definitely been the case in my experience.
And it happens. I mean, but people feel like it's like you can't quit things. There's a great book by Annie Duke, who was like a world tour poker champion from Portland, and she wrote this book called Quit. Really great book, and it's not just about poker at all. It's about how in our society quitting things is a bad thing. So whether it's a relationship, it's a job, it's a hobby, that you should really just push forward and not quit. And so her book basically debunks why that's not true. And by quitting things, you can open up space for some other great things. I'm not encouraging people to go quit their relationships, but some relationships should be quit, right? They should be stopped and open up a space to have a really great relationship. But before you do that, making sure you've done everything that you can do to make the relationship great. And that takes communicating. And people are just most people are not good communicators. So learning about how you can communicate better with your partner so that you can not only understand what they need from you, but that you can express to them what you need from them.
All right, I have a question for you that just as an example, but you were talking about the, starting at the end. Can you give me an example of something that where you want to get to at the end? Give me an example of what you're talking about in your life.
Oh, okay. Okay. Something I want to get to. So one of my life things is I want to be on the world tour senior dance tour, international dance tour. So I used to do a lot of swing dancing in my 20s. I don't do ballroom now, so I have to learn it, and I'd love to learn it with my partner. So that's kind of my vision for my future is I just want to be traveling the world because I love to do world travel. I love to dress up, and I love to dance and be led by my man. So I love that vision of, whenever you see old people dancing, isn't it amazing? I just love watching that. And I thought they're going to go home and they're going to get busy, right? Because they're having such a great time and being so connected. So that's just kind of a fun thing I have in my
I'll never forget,
future.
I went to my Nana's wedding. She was widowed, and then she remarried Grandpa Bill. And, Nana, I've got certain visions in my mind of what Nana's supposed to be all about. And at their wedding, they started swing dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, and she was good. And I was like, Nana, I didn't know you dance like that. And she goes, oh, yeah, I used to do this, and this. And she was a big time dancer when she was younger, but I'd never known that or seen that. And so I was thoroughly like blown away. It was beautiful.
Honestly, I think dancing is one of the best things men can do for their partner. And if they don't have a partner, it's one of the best things they can do to get a partner, because women love to dance and they love to be led by a man that can dance. And back in my swing dancing days, I saw the transformation of men in a short period of time. So there's no excuse like, I don't know how to do it, because you can learn how to do it in like 3 months. I mean, in this class, it was one day a week. And just, there was, 10 women, 10 men, and you rotate around, right? So you don't even have to have a partner to go to any of these lessons. And I remember this one particular guy was very kind of awkward and shy and was a terrible dancer, of course, because he did not know how to do it. And every week we'd go, and then we'd go, Brabati's Pan used to be down off Second, and they would have live swing band every week. And then we'd go there, and there'd always be more follows, which would be the females generally, than the leads. So if you were a man that could lead, you always had somebody to dance with, like somebody tapping you, like waiting to dance with you.
Yeah.
And I saw the transformation of this guy who was so awkward in just 3 months period of time, where all of a sudden he has women lined up tapping him to dance, because everyone wants to be led by somebody who can dance. So in a couples scenario, to go take couples dance lessons would be so awesome. And doesn't it feel great though to just not just watch people dancing like that, but doing it yourself? And that the masculine feminine energy of dancing, I think, is so beautiful too.
So can anyone learn how to dance and get better at it?
Anyone can.
Oh,
What I tell my son all the time is you get good at what you practice.
that's true.
So if you put the time in and just some people might pick it up faster, but everyone can definitely learn how to dance. But something like that, as simple as that, of finding an activity that you both can enjoy together, and that you'll know, like if you have a class like that, you're going to be doing that together. Maybe it's pickleball classes or just playing pickleball or something that you're doing together and enjoying it, laughing, moving your body. All those things can start sparking things that maybe fell a little bit, dull over the years.
Like my parents, they took a stained glass class together.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. And they told me what they were doing. I was like, well, you guys are going to do what?
But at least they did something together. It's cute your dad would do that with her.
Yes. And so, but that transitioned into they bought a bunch of materials. And so, like, my mom was good at like cutting the glass and picking the colors. And then my dad would weld the metal pieces to bring
that's great.
And they would work on these projects together. And I'm just like, but that's what you're talking about. Like they're finding activities to do together that's enjoyable.
Yeah.
The dancing is I can't dance, but it's something I know that I would like to be able to do, because I see it. I see people dance. I see people that move well together. I'm like, that looks like that would be fun.
I know you could do it, Chad. I have all the faith. So after you do your eulogy, then you can sign up for your dance class.
The dance. Yeah, that's. I wish I could sing too. I don't think I can change my singing voice, but yeah, dancing and singing are things that are appealing to me in my mind. When you see people that dance well together, it's a beautiful thing.
It is. And you know that, I don't know, there's just sparks, I think. And it also gives a man confidence if they can lead. And doing simple, you don't need to learn to do the waltz. Just learning some basic swing moves are pretty straightforward. And it's great if you're single too.
Yeah, I think that might be fun. I think that's something I would probably enjoy. You go to a class and you get other people in there. You're learning how to dance, and if you can learn how to swing a golf club, you can probably learn how to move your feet a little bit so you don't look like a complete fool on the dance floor. Yes,
you can easily look like you know what you're doing, and if you don't, so
interesting.
Doing something complicated like a ballroom type move, of course, that requires specific moves, but just regular swing dancing.
But I love your answer, because you've obviously thought about it. That was a specific. That was not a general goal. That's a specific goal that you have that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, it's just a vision. I mean, it's just part of my dream. Like, how do I want to live my life when I'm like 80 years old? Well, I want to be moving my body.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be with my partner, feeling sexy and being led around the dance floor. And I want to be in a community of people who are doing the same thing, and seeing the world. So I was like, that just kind of combined everything kind of nicely together.
Yeah,
so.
I do know that in general, body movement is important to me. So like by exercising, working out, just taking care of my body, like being able to move. I'm not so worried about my length of life as I am as much about being able to move as long as I'm alive. being able to walk, hike, play
Yeah.
golf, just be active. That's important to me so that if I protect my body, then I can do that.
It'd be miserable having to go through our older years and not be able to move
No, I
easily.
think, yeah, movement it seems like it's a basic principle in life, but it's, I realize now as I've gotten older how important it is. Like, I just shared the story this weekend. I was in the parking lot and it was at night. It's not well lit. And I, backpack over my shoulders, Celeste, and I hit one of those cement curb parking, stops.
Uh-huh.
And my weight went flying forward. Like I thought, okay, I'm going to smash my face into the pavement and I'm going to be knocked out. No one's going to be around to see me. But I was able to get my hands out in front of me and break the fall. And I took a piece of flesh out of my callus here. I hit my knee a little bit, but I was okay. And the reason why is because the activity, by keeping myself strong with the strength training and the work I've done over the last 30 years, like I was able to protect myself from catastrophic damage.
Right.
So the movement is important.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get, we talked about complacency in our relationships, and we can be complacent about our bodies and our movement. I know we're going to talk more another time about just our fitness journeys. We both have been pretty dedicated our whole lives to health and fitness. And, there's some easy hacks for people to, even if they've never really followed much of a regime for health and fitness, that they can be doing to just try to redirect themselves into a more healthier lifestyle that will make them feel better and have more energy for their partner and their family and live a longer, healthier life.
Well, Celeste, I appreciate you coming in and sharing. That was a very good conversation. And thank you for sharing one of your long-term goals, too. That's great. All right. Give out the socials again.
So here's What Women Want.
Yes.
On YouTube and on TikTok. And I guess it's the same for Instagram.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I love that you come in and share, and hopefully people are enjoying it as well. But I appreciate your time. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Jack. Good to see you.
And enjoy the nice weather next week.
I know. We'll see you here with some sunshine.
All right. We'll keep things rolling. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. Big thanks to Celeste Trapp for joining us in studio. Yeah, Tony and Boring. I love Tony. Good friend, good listener of the program. He called when Celeste was in studio, but I chose not to put him on the air because I think he was going to suggest that Celeste and I should get together. Look, I can tell you one thing, Tony. Like, Celeste is awesome, and she is super sharp, really smart, and she's beautiful. But why would Celeste want to be with a radio scrub like myself? It's not happening, and I'm okay with that. I know my place in life, and it's probably being single for the rest of eternity, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, Celeste is great. I enjoy talking with her, and she really does care about people and wants to see people have better and more productive relationships. I also feel a lot better after talking with Brian Henniger, who was in studio. One, what a cool guy. I'd never had a chance to really talk to him at length. I've seen him out at the Alex Springs Golf Tournament a couple of times, but it was great to get a chance to talk with him. Here's a pro golfer who played at an extremely high level and nearly won the Masters one year, but he has the same fears that I have as a golfer. My biggest fear is day to day, week to week, as I'm, working on my swing, continuing to practice, playing golf, is that you go through these periods where I'll have a 2 or 3 week period where I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just walking out there on the course. I'm hitting the ball, playing with confidence, and everything feels great. But every summer, you go through a period where you lose it. You lose your feels. And you're trying to search your way through the golf course. It's incredibly frustrating when you put so much time and energy into something and you care so much about it and you lose the feel to where you almost feel like you have no idea what you're doing out there. It's, I hate it. It's frustrating. What I've learned by staying committed to playing the game and practicing and continuing to work on it year round is that you lose it, you lose the feels, but they always come back. You just don't know when that's going to happen. Sometimes it comes back after a couple of days. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks, whatever the case may be. I went through a stretch last summer where I went through about a 3 to 4 week period where I just lost the feels, and they came back. But he goes through the same thing. And he said that was why guys like Fred Couples amazed him, because he said that Fred never lost feels. Fred's swing is just beautiful at all times, and the way he can stripe it. But Brian said that he and many golfers on tour, they're out there, they're grinding. They're spending a ton of time on the range, hitting balls, trying to always, be in that position where they have the feels. And it was just awesome to hear someone at that level, talk about the same type of things that I feel and experience too, the same fears. It's crazy. So that was fun. Alex Brink is a good dude, and Brian Henniger is a good dude, and they're doing great work at the golf farm. And, for me, I think I've told you before, but, I started playing golf. I mean, I've always played golf. My dad got me involved, playing when I was younger, but I didn't really take it serious until about 5 years ago, and maybe a little over 5 years ago. And that's when I met Nick over at Golf Tech and started working with him. And that's where things changed. And then I just dedicated myself to practice and playing constantly and putting in the time, but I needed it. I didn't realize I needed it, but I needed it because most of my life was dedicated to work. And I do enjoy radio. I love radio. But, you got to have balance in your life, right? And all I had was work, and then I would have, my workouts with my buddy Luke, but I needed something else, an outlet. And that's where golf came in. And so I've just kind of dove into it. Having a slightly addicted personality helps, because once I get locked in on something, it's easy for me to focus. But, just the progress, the accomplishments, having a coach, you set goals, you reach the goals, like, it does feel good. But the Masters is awesome. I'm watching the Masters today. Like watching Fred Couples hit that eagle shot on 14 from 191 yards out. I mean, it's just awesome. That is a beautiful course. Now, the one thing Brian said about the course that you may not see on TV as much is the undulation. Like, there's a lot more up and down than what you would think. And maybe I don't think that translates so well on TV, but I've talked to people who have been there and walked the course, said the same thing. Has the Godfather been there? No, I think the Godfather's on the list. Have they gone? I can't remember. I don't think he's been there. I think they're on the list. The people I've talked to that have been there, though, said it was phenomenal. Just how beautiful it is, how well maintained it is. The sights, the sounds, everything about it. But I love the tournament. And we'll see how things shake out. The guys that you would expect to be there near the top are near the top. Scotty Scheffler was the odds-on favorite to win the tournament, as was Roy McIlroy. But right now, you have Justin Rose. I can guarantee you he won't be at the top when the tournament's over. Corey Connors from Canada at 4 under. Scotty Scheffler at 4 under. Ludwig Auberg, he's also there at 4 under. He was at 20-1 odds before the tournament. And he had a great showing last year. DeChambeau at 3 under. Solid day, 69. Nice day for DeChambeau. Jason Day's up there at 2 under. And there's Freddie Couples at 1 under par. Second oldest player in Masters history to go shooting the red. So good. We'll see how things play out. I think Phil Mickelson was 3 over. You got a group of guys at even par. Jordan Spieth at 1 over. And where'd that guy go? Isn't it amazing how some guys are white hot and then they just disappear? That's the crazy nature of golf. All right, Luka Doncic made his return to Dallas last night. And Nico Harrison got a lot of what he deserved. Patrick DeMont, the ownership group for the Mavs. Sorry, I thought I turned my mic off. Just coughed right into my mic. See, that's why Celeste is never going to go for a guy like me. I can't even turn up my mic when I'm going to cough into it. Let's take a look at the Masters. Well, the Mavericks last night, they got worked at home by the Lakers. And Luka Doncic, well, he looked like Luka, right? I have a good idea. Why don't you trade Luka? Wait a second. Is Tony back? Let's go out to Tony right now. Hey, Tony. Nice to talk to you, my friend. What's cracking?
Well, I just had to let him know why, I had to get off the phone. That it wasn't my choice. So I was just calling back to let him know that. And
I was going to go to you, but I was nervous because I thought you might try to play matchmaker between Celeste and I. So I was nervous, but I was going to go to you.
And that made you nervous, and you had to threaten me like that? Come on, no.
No, all I said was, well, this might be a threat. I said, if you say anything about Celeste and I getting together, I'll cut your balls. That's what I text you, right?
Well, what was the next one?
Oh, I'll kill you? What did I say? Let me see here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, I did. Oh, yeah. I will kill you. That's exactly what I said.
Well, you guys have so much in common. I don't understand. I've listened to you guys talk a few times, and you agree on so many subjects. You're both parents. You like the outdoors. She likes the outdoors. You like to stay fit. She likes to stay fit. You care about making people better. So does she. You guys seem close in age. You look like you make a cute couple. I don't know. I'm just tying everything together, and that's what I was going to call and say. But, I guess you just didn't want me to do that.
No, I appreciate that. No, it's okay. It's all good. How are things going with you, by the way? What's up, man? What's cracking?
I'm good. One more point on that.
Yeah.
Remember, Billy Joel got Christy Brinkley. Okay. So
it's true.
Anything's possible, Chad.
That's true.
It's raining. Just getting into my workout. And
by the way,
how
hot was Christy Brinkley back in the day, too, by the way? Stunning.
She was the best. Yeah. She was the pinup girl.
Now, is it true? Did I read that once where he found out about her affair because she got into like a helicopter crash or something? She was up on like the ski slope somewhere.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
And I hear these things. I don't know if it's true or not anymore, but I think that's what happened. Yeah, Uptown Girl. Yeah, I like Billy Joel. Of course, if you can sing like that guy and write songs like that guy, you probably don't have a hard time with the ladies, I would guess. That's my rough guess. I don't know. He's good, though.
Yeah.
What is the name of that album back in the day? Was that what was that? Was that Innocent Man? Shacker, what's the name of that album he put out back in the 80s? Let's see here. Billy Joel. Did you like Billy Joel back in the day, Tony?
Yeah, I like Billy Joel now. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Yeah, My Life.
Yeah, My Life. Yeah, that's good. He's good. I'm down. All right, Tony. I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, at least I know you care about me.
Well, maybe next time, huh?
I appreciate you caring about me. I appreciate you.
I do care. I wanted to do you a service, not a disservice, my friend.
No, I understand. I know you got my back, and I respect that. I appreciate you. There's Tony out and boring. Yeah, Billy Joel. Yeah, Christy Brinkley. Yeah, she was pretty fabulous in Vacation. You're probably down with that, Shacker, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then she showed up again in Vegas Vacation.
I didn't like Vegas Vacation that much, though. I didn't think that was a very good film.
I thought it was hilarious.
Maybe I need to go back and watch it and do a little retrospective on Vegas Vacation.
It was the reboot they made like last decade that wasn't good.
Oh, was that one bad?
Yeah.
It's like when they came out with Dumb and Dumber, terrible.
Not enough Chevy Chase. He was just a background character when they rebooted it last decade. Needs to be him.
Yeah, the original Vacation's fabulous. John Candy is in the movie. Chrissy Brinkley. Yeah, it's good. And then what's his name?
Randy Quaid?
Yeah, Quaid. Who plays what's the actor that plays Russ? I can't remember his name, but he's gone on some big things.
It changes each movie. It's been like Michael Anthony Hall in the first one.
Yeah, that's who. Michael Anthony Hall. I like him a lot. He's cool. What was that TV show he went on to? It became
Dead Zone?
Yeah, Dead Zone.
That was a good show.
I like Michael Anthony Hall.
Yeah, he's got a part in the new season of Reacher.
That's right. Hey, I saw the latest preview for Karate Kid Legends. It looks like it's going to be good. Are you excited?
Yeah, it's one of those movies I know nothing about. I don't know what it is. Like, it's continuation of the Cobra Kai story with Danielson.
Well, from what I can gauge or what I gather on that is that it sounds like it's going to be like maybe a few years after the Cobra Kai series, and maybe LaRusso doesn't have students or as many students, and so this is kind of an opportunity for him to reconnect. But I think I'm going to like it.
I hope it's successful. Keep the story going. It's like one of those stories.
But you're going to go watch it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I haven't been to the theaters since, I think, Top Gun Maverick.
That was the last time I went. I don't think I've been to a movie theater since then.
Yeah, I'm done with the Marvel movies, and then there's nothing left.
No, they've ruined it. Oh, yeah. Well, where are you at on the new Superman movie that's coming out, and they got the stupid dog Crypto in there, whatever his name is?
I'll wait a couple years till it's streaming somewhere. I mean, it's...
Why did they keep screwing them up?
I don't know. For me, there's just been too many Superman movies.
Well, I believe, and this is what ticks me off. Like when I saw Man of Steel, like I believe that's a masterpiece. Like I think Man of Steel is a masterpiece, but they didn't do anything to build off of that terrific movie, and instead we got Batman and Superman.
There's a 3-hour-plus version of that movie. I don't know if you've sat through that one.
Of which
one? All
one?
the deleted scenes.
No, they keep screwing it up. So the problem is that because I'm dedicated to Superman, I'll probably go see it, and I'll be. But why are they putting the dog in there? A dog with superpowers? I don't need that, Shacker.
It's good for cartoons.
It's great for cartoons. The same thing. Like the Incredible Hulk. Like if I had to boil it down to my favorite superhero character, the Incredible Hulk is number one. But they couldn't even get those movies right. And we got one, and we got another. But that's all they did. They were two fractured movies. I hate that. Liv Tyler was in the second one, though. I enjoyed that.
I love that they're trying with The Punisher, but the Punisher movies have never been good. The best Punisher has been the TV show on Daredevil.
There's so much you could do with that, too. Like, the Bill Bixby, the original Incredible Hulk television series was fabulous. And Bill Bixby nailed it. And they found a way to take a superhero character like the Hulk and create a human connection there with that turmoil that exists between, Banner and the Hulk. I loved how they did that. And Lou Ferrigno was a fabulous Hulk, by the way. I don't know, whatever. Doesn't matter. Most movies aren't worth going to see in the theater now. That's all you need to know about that.
No pause button when you're sitting there.
So when are we going to get? Are we going to get a Mandalorian movie soon? Like maybe next summer?
Yeah, around this time next year.
Well, I've started going back watching. I'm going back and watching episodes now of The Mandalorian. I forgot how great it is. It's phenomenal, and I love the relationship between Grogu and Mando, and I love the fact that he adopted him as his son, and now I can't wait to see Din Djarin on missions with Din Grogu and seeing where they're on. Because I'm assuming they're going to be on their trials, right? Or he's going to be zipping around with Grogu.
Yeah, just that they're continuing the story through movies, and you need that to be successful if they're ever going to make a Ridley Star Wars movie, which has been rumored to make. They're going to bring her character back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's just rumors. Nothing's been written or produced or filmed yet.
Well, do you like? Have you seen the Andor? Are you excited about Andor,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
coming out soon? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I like the Rogue One movie, and now that movie gets a prequel, which in itself is a prequel to the original movie.
The Andor series, Andor, the second season looks like it's going to be fabulous.
It's also just in time. I mean, there will be no basketball by the time that season starts.
Oh, by the way, what's the next concert you're going to go see?
Disturbed's going to be at Moda Center with your favorite band, Daughtry, opening.
Daughtry's opening for Disturbed.
Yeah.
Hey, Daughtry was good on Live from Daryl's House.
Yeah, and he was just the band Daughtry. Well, I know it's just one person. Just performed in Moda Center last October. Twice in 1 year.
That's a good show, though. Who was it that opened? Hey, how was Did Squeeze open for Heart?
Yeah. Squeeze open for Heart. That was a good night.
But Squeeze was good, right?
Yeah, but it was just different to see the lead singer in a wheelchair. I understand the story. Her wrist was broken. Nancy Wilson.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, Ann Wilson. Sorry to mix them up. It was different to have someone a little bit older playing these songs, whereas I could tell it was tougher to get to the high note, and it made me want to go to Hairfest to see someone covering Heart songs where they try to make it sound like they were on the album.
Yeah, it's tough. I feel bad for artists who have certain vocal range when they're younger. Because I have high expectations for certain artists when I go see them in concert, but I realize that as time goes on and with age, that you got to sing some of those songs in different, keys.
Yeah, and when you have these cover band musicians come into your studio to promote Hairfest out in Canby every summer, I noticed they say their
Did
goal
you
is
go to
make the
Hairfest
song.
last year?
I have not gone to Hairfest yet. There's always something going on the weekend that's happening, but I'm like this. I have it on my calendar, like your last guest said. Mark stuff down on your calendar, or you won't do it, and that's what I'm doing with Hairfest this year. I'm not
Is that something? Would your lady go with you to Hairfest?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Did your lady go to New Kids on the Block with you?
Yeah.
Did she enjoy that one?
Yeah, she'll definitely enjoy Hairfest. You got was it Hall and Bros, the band that covers Hall and Oates and Doobie Brothers?
Now wait a second. Can you have? Is that right though? Because they've technically broken up, Daryl Hall and John Oates. Is it proper to have a Hall and Bros tribute band if they're no longer together?
Well, yeah, a lot of these bands aren't together with these cover bands, but maybe they need to cover some of that Daryl Hall solo stuff. Maybe not focus on Hall and Oates music.
He's got so many good songs. Live from Daryl's House is. I can watch that stuff on YouTube all day. I can't believe how good it is, and I can't believe how versatile Daryl Hall is. He's a freak, man, an absolute freak. I just heard they got a version of "Lowdown," the song from Boz Scaggs, that was on the Live from Daryl's House episode with Chromeo. So good, Shacker. The music. I just can't believe it. I'll never forget the first time I saw Live from Daryl's House. When I came across it on the computer, I was like, what is this?
Yeah, and that's the opposite of Hairfest, because they take songs and make them totally different.
Yeah,
on that show.
I'll never forget it, but like the very first one that he did, the first episode of Live from Daryl's House, it's just Daryl Hall with a couple of bandmates in this room that was under construction. And I'm just like, it was just Daryl Hall looking in the camera saying, hi, welcome to Daryl's house. And I'm like, what the flip is going on here? Took me about 5 minutes to figure out this is one of the greatest concepts ever.
Yeah, and he's an innovator, because then everyone copied that concept come pandemic time, and we're all stuck in our house.
Isn't that cool, though, that you take an older artist like Hall, who comes up with a concept to match today's generation and technology and the internet, and just transforms the way that we listen and watch music? It's great. And to bring artists together. And he's smart enough to bring in artists from today and meld together and make songs together. I love that. Who is this, Daughtry?
No, it's a cover of Wicked Game by Stone Sour.
Oh. Now, who made this song popular? Was that Chris Isaac?
Chris Isaac, correct.
I like that video back in the day.
Yeah. Without the video, I would have never known anything about this song.
This is a good cover. It's a good one.
I usually seek out covers just to tweak you out. Usually you hate them.
I just don't like it when you have a bad cover of like a Phil Collins song and they make it sound like garbage. Because I don't like to disrespect great artists. Yeah, this is a good cover. It's not Chris Isaak, but it's good. Chris Isaak's got a good cover on Solitary Man from Neil Diamond, too, which is really good. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive. I have no idea what that segment was about, but I enjoyed it. Trailblazers in action tomorrow. Warriors in town. Tip at 7. We'll have game day starting live from Moda Center at 5 o'clock here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Scotty Bethune is busting my balls, and rightfully so. Yeah, my scoreboard for the Masters didn't update properly, so Roy McIlroy melted down late. Had a double on 15 and a double on 17. So he shot an even par 72, which means he is 7 shots off the pace. Justin Rose, your leader, at 7 under. Scheffler is 3 shots back with a 4 under par. Bryson DeChambeau, 4 shots back. He was 3 under. And the good story of the day was my man Fred Couples, 1 under 71, had an eagle on 14. So thank you, Scotty. Thanks for keeping me straight. I appreciate that. Travis and Boring chimes in. Gold jacket, green jacket, who gives a bleep? It's one of the greatest lines ever. And I can't believe this either, but Shacker, Duke, the UPS driver, is stunning me right now. He said he did not like the ending of Cobra Kai. I thought the ending was phenomenal. I was praising it.
It means he doesn't like Cobra Kai.
Especially
How can
with,
you not like that?
What about Kreese and Johnny make amends? Doesn't get any better than that.
I wish everything that I liked from the 80s can come back like this.
Duke, you surprised me, my friend. And you're entitled to see it your way. He thought that the fight with Johnny, the way it was decided with the 2 coaches because they had a tie, he thought that was unrealistic.
The whole thing was unrealistic. The whole show was unrealistic. It's a comedy. Well, it was made by the people who made Hot Tub Time Machine. A time machine out of a hot tub. I mean, don't take it serious.
All right. I asked this guy to call in, one of my colleagues in the radio biz. He had a chance to walk the course there at Augusta, which is pretty awesome. Let's go out and talk with my man, Matthew Palumbo. Hey, Matt, I appreciate you calling in. So when were you at the Masters?
2007, that's Zach Johnson. 2008, Trevor Immelman.
So how did you get access to the Masters?
Not what you know, who you know. My brother happened to work for a big-time company, hold a lot of property down in Sea Island, Georgia, and was able to score the practice round tickets for Tuesday and Wednesday and to go to the par 3.
Well, dude, that's awesome. So give me the breakdown then. What was your experience like just walking up on the course, being there, the sights, the sounds, everything? How would you describe it?
There's nothing the TV can do. I mean, HD and everything that we have technology-wise, it's awesome. But when you're there in real life and you hear the sounds and you see how well manicured the entire property is and how much care that they take in every aspect of what they do, you cannot even come close to getting a glimpse of it on television.
So it's truly as beautiful as I think it is in my mind.
Yes, and if you'd like a little Fred Couples story, it's a pretty good one.
Give it to me.
So, 2008 practice round on a Wednesday, the Davis Love, Jeff Fluman, who wasn't in the field but was playing in the practice round, and Fred Couples were walking. And there was quite a few followers for Freddie back then because, let's just put it kindly, ladies like him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a legend and he's a handsome man.
Yeah, and so one lady could not stop, trying to get his picture because you could have cameras in during the practice rounds. And finally he said, okay, when we get done with 10, get over to 11. And I'll just say this nicely. She was an attractive enough woman, but I would say Freddie had different standards. He just said, hurry up, let's take the picture.
That's so good.
It was such a funny moment, but, I mean, it was you can't get over just how well everything is run there. And obviously I had the sandwiches and dropped a bunch of money on my credit card.
Yeah, but how good is the food, right? The pimento cheese sandwiches, what was your favorite, food item on the menu?
I like full pimento cheese. I mean, that harkens back to you and I being, children of, the late 70s and early 80s. I mean, when your mom would put stuff like that on celery, you wouldn't touch it, but, you put it on, bread, and somehow it was like they'd reinvented the sandwich.
Yeah, that's really great, man. How hard is it to get to Augusta? How far, what do you fly into Atlanta? Where do you go to get to Augusta?
Yeah, you'd fly to Atlanta, and it's a trek. My brother was down, and I flew into St. Simon's, I took a puddle jump from Atlanta. I think we had 4.5 hours to get there. And, I mean, Augusta itself, honestly, there's a golf course, and then there's really nothing else.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Dude, I'm so glad you called in, man. I'm jealous you got to go and, and take part. So basically what you're saying is that if you have an opportunity to go and be a part of any day of the tournament, take advantage of that.
Well, based on your earlier conversation, with one of your guests, I would tell you, man, I would cash in a lot of points, unless it's a life or death situation with your honey-do list. That's one you've got to cut. If you can cross that off your bucket list and check that box, you have to.
All right, Matthew, you're the man, dude. I'm glad you called in, my friend.
Thanks, Chad.
Another question for you. Have you enjoyed watching the young Trailblazers develop this year?
This has been the most important Trailblazers season since they lost to the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. This is a really important season, and I could not be happier. And we can harp on that word as much as the development has been unreal. And the hiccup last night, I think, is definitely going to stick in somebody like Shaedon Sharp's craw until the beginning of next season.
All right, dude, you're the man. I'm glad you called in. That's Matthew right there, sharing stories about the Masters. Yeah, Shaedon Sharp, Jabari Walker, they had a chance to ice that game last night, but came up a little lame at the foul line. Yeah, Duke, the UPS guy, blowing me away right now. He loves Cobra Kai. Like, he loves the series. He loves it, Shacker, but he just didn't like the ending. And that just surprises me because I would have thought for anyone that loves Cobra Kai, they would have been down with the ending. But, again, this goes back. I've said this before, but this is where it's a major advantage to be like me and be so simple-minded. I don't overthink things when I'm watching like a show or a movie. I just enjoy the entertainment, whether it's realistic or not.
It's over, and he just takes it out on the creators of the show and says they didn't make a good ending.
I was sad when it was over because when it first came out and I watched it, this is amazing. And I hate it when things I love come to an end. It drives me crazy.
A tear almost came down my eye when he was doing the training montage and they're playing the best around.
He just hit me up and said, when the tournament started, Johnny wasn't even the coach of Cobra Kai. Then all of a sudden he's fighting to see who wins the tournament.
Yeah, and there was a break between the kids fighting and the coaches fighting. It made no sense. Who cares?
Yeah, doesn't matter. It's still great. All right,
Go back in time in a hot tub. I mean, come on.
All right, big thanks to Brian Henniger and Alex Brink, also to Celeste Trapp, and all of you for listening. I appreciate your time. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll have the Rip City Drive live starting at 3 from Moda Center. Sean Hyken will join me on site. Chris Burkhart with Game Day at